new. Get ready.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Play to Win podcast, a show where we break down weekly gaming news through in-depth discussion. My name is Keiran, and I'm, of course, joined by my awesome co-host, Tyler. How's it going, man?
It's going. It's been a long week. I took a day off from work yesterday because I was like, no, I need a break. Day off. It was nice and relaxing, but it's been a very long week. And we have a very long episode ahead of us, so I'm not even going to take up any more time.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. We've got some very meaty things to discuss. But
I am
before
not looking forward to this. I will say I'm not looking forward to this. It's going to be a good discussion. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the discussion. Maybe not so much the topics, but where was I? Yes, remember you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Play to Win Game. Forgot the handle for a second. Follow us there for updates on the show. Post when new episodes go live. Stuff. Follow us on places. You'll get stuff in regards to the show. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube so that you know when new videos go live. Take the notification bell. Thank you very much. So the topics for this episode are the Activision Blizzard lawsuit, which broke a couple days ago. Troubles with Skull and Bones and Ubisoft Singapore, which also massive thing that happened this week. And we're going to do a very brief recap of EA Play Live afterwards. But before that, we have some brief mentions, which I will get through very briefly.
Yep.
First one, Square Enix accidentally leaked Neo: The World's End with You early and then revoked it from those who got access to it. I didn't see anything regarding that.
Yeah, that's the thing that happened. It's very funny. If you got access to it and put your Switch in airplane mode, you were still good to play when they revoked the access. But if your Switch was connected online, people were like mid-game and it's like, oh wait, I can't play anymore. So Square got themselves to blame for that one.
Tencent is set to buy Sumo Group, the owner of Sumo Digital, which made Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Crackdown 3, the Chinese Room, who made Dear Esther, and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and others for $1.27 billion, which is a chunk of change.
It's a chunk of change. Tencent out here just buying more companies.
Another thing I didn't really see anything about, behind the scenes of why Warcraft 3 Reforged ended up being so bad, which is a Bloomberg article. Like I said, I didn't see anything of that. I don't know if you did, Tyler.
Yeah, I read the whole thing. It's honestly, I debated whether or not this should be a main news topic for today because it's a nice scoop expose article from Jason Schreier, of course. And this was already planned to come out. This article was planned to come out before the lawsuit happened. This wasn't a thing like, hey, the lawsuit, I also got another thing for you all. Just like, this is already planned. But yeah, it gives a nice behind the scenes on, basically there's a part of it that's like kind of egregious where it's like Blizzard knew the game was not good. It was going to be received very poorly, but they put it out anyway because they had already taken pre-orders and they didn't want to delay it and then have to give the money back or anything like that. So that's just like one detail from that article. Like I said, it could be a main topic, but there's way too much for us to talk about this episode already as it is. So, and this would have just added on time. So I highly encourage anybody who has not read about this or has not heard about this to go to Bloomberg, read this article. What I have here, like what Kara said behind the scenes of why Warcraft 3 Reforged ended up so bad. That's not the headline for the article, but if you just type up Warcraft 3 Reforged, Bloomberg, you'll probably find it. This came up like, I think, if not the same day as the lawsuit, maybe like a day or two after the lawsuit came out. So yeah, it's fairly recent, fairly fresh.
Yeah, I will have to go and read that. Next, Ubisoft revealed Tom Clancy's X-Defiant, which, as far as I understand it, is basically Tom Clancy Overwatch, kind of.
Kind of, sort of. It's like a free-to-play multiplayer shooter type thing. It's a game that exists.
Yep.
It's a free-to-play game from Ubisoft, and I got no interest in it really. It looks like for Ubisoft's version of Call of Duty. And it makes sense because one of the people behind the game worked on a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like it looks straight up like Call of Duty. I'm not even gonna lie.
It is coming to PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Stadia, Luna, Ubisoft Connect, and the PC beta is planned for August 5th this year. Don't think there was a release date given for the actual game.
I don't believe so.
I'm just gonna say this one thing before we move on. I hate the name.
Yeah, yeah.
It's dumb. It doesn't sound good.
I'm not a fan of it either. It's just like, hey, we got spunk and attitude over here,
Yeah.
and it's just doesn't vibe with me.
Respawn, makers of Apex Legends, Jedi Fallen Order, Titanfall, are working on a new single-player IP. That's all
Yep,
we really know.
yep. They just
Netflix,
put out like different job listings and stuff. So
yeah.
there's that.
Something we talked about last week that we have a little more clarification on. Netflix is planning to step into games, starting with mobile games, and it will be added at no extra cost to Netflix subscriptions. No word on the apparent rumored PlayStation partnership yet, but that could come at some point down the line.
Again, another story that could have been a main topic this week, but it just can't do it.
Nope. And our final brief mention is the Olympics opening ceremony featured music from different games, including Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Nier, Monster Hunter, Dragon Quest, Sonic, and more. Don't think there was any Nintendo games, any Nintendo music.
I don't think so either. Like I looked at the list. I didn't watch the opening ceremony, but I woke up and saw people tweeting about it, and I saw the list of songs, and I was like, "This is dope." Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. Surprising that there weren't no Nintendo songs, but I like. My heart was nice and warm that they used the Olympus songs from Kingdom Hearts for the Olympics here. I was just like, it's just so fitting watching everyone walk out to the Olympus theme song from Kingdom Hearts. I'm just like, oh, my heart.
That is going to conclude our brief mentions, I believe. Yep. So we're going to move on to our main topics. The way we're going to do this is honestly to save one of us talking for way too long.
Although we're still gonna be both talking for way too long.
Tyler is gonna start off talking about the multitude of Blizzard things that happened this week, and then after that, I will do over the Ubisoft Singapore Skull and Bone stuff. So, Tyler, over to you.
Okay, all right. So, if you haven't heard, if you haven't heard, maybe you either have. Actually, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. But if you haven't heard, I don't know how you haven't heard. But Activision Blizzard has been sued. They are being sued by the state of California. Specifically, it is the Department of Free Employment and Housing. The Department of Free Employment and Housing of California is suing Activision Blizzard. Bloomberg Law, they first broke this news on Wednesday about the lawsuit. They have their own little article there. It's like a brief summation of everything. And they have a link to the lawsuit over there as well. I'm sure any website that has talked about this at all has links to the lawsuit. So if you have not read the lawsuit and you are interested in reading the lawsuit, by all means, go ahead and read it. It's a bit lengthy, but it is very in detail, in depth. When we talk about the lawsuit here, we both have the link to the lawsuit. I've read the entire lawsuit start to finish. Keiran, have you read the lawsuit entirely?
No, I've read at least 3 or 4 articles on the whole situation, but I haven't read the entire lawsuit.
Got it. So yeah, when we're talking about it here, I've gone through it and I've pulled out, I've done a general overview and then have each of the things in segments, like sections here and all. So when we're talking about it, we'll be referring directly to the lawsuit and all. And as a heads up, real quick content warning, because really it applies to the entire episode, but for Blizzard specifically, but again, the entire episode, we will be talking about subjects of sexual harassment. I believe there are some brief mentions of rape. There is mentions of suicide in here, abuse, workplace abuse. Those types of those types of topics will be talked about in this episode. Obviously, we will do our very best to handle them as sensitively and talk about them as sensitively and carefully as possible. But if those topics are ones that you are not very comfortable hearing or talking about or listening to, anything like that, by all means, you don't have to listen to this episode. There are no hard feelings or anything like that. It's totally fine. But we want to give that heads up before we start getting into the meat of things, and then people are just taken aback and just like, whoa, didn't know this was going to happen here. And people end up, reliving things that they didn't want to have to relive. So putting that warning out there right now before we get into things. Okay. So Activision is being sued. Activision did respond to the lawsuit with their own statement. And basically they deny the lawsuit. And they put out a really lengthy statement. I'm not reading the entire statement here, but I'm just going to read select quotes from it and like basically what their statement is saying. So they start off their statement saying, quote, "We value diversity and strive to foster a workplace that offers inclusivity for everyone. There is no place in our company or industry or any industry for sexual misconduct or harassment of any kind. We take every allegation seriously and investigate all claims. In cases related to misconduct, action was taken to address the issue," end quote. They also claim in their statement that the DFEH, Department of Fair Employment and Housing, they claim that the DFEH lawsuit includes, quote, "distorted and in many cases false descriptions of Blizzard's past," end quote. And they also claim that Activision also claims that they have, quote, "made significant changes to address company culture and reflect more diversity within our leadership teams," end quote. Now, how accurate that is, probably very inaccurate based on everything that's here and also like other statements that people related to Blizzard and Activision have put out over the past couple days. So this investigation was carried out over the course of 2 years, and the company is specifically being sued for, and I'm reading, this is a direct quote from the lawsuit. They're specifically being sued for, quote, "claims of sex discrimination in terms and condition of employment, including compensation, assignment, promotion, constructive discharge, termination, unlawful sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to prevent discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, and unequal pay," end quote. That's everything they're being sued for. Before we get into this anymore, Keiran, when you were hearing about this lawsuit happening, when you were reading the articles and stuff, what were you thinking? What were your thoughts and feelings and all?
Anger comes to mind for the first one. Like, as much as this didn't necessarily, this kind of overall topic, like some of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later on, were definitely like a shock to read.
Yes.
But in terms of like the overall like culture at Blizzard, not terribly surprising considering what their past is, what we've heard about them previously. Didn't exactly come as a super shock to the system that this was coming out now that they're getting sued. I will also very quickly say that if you are not a fan of swearing, I would maybe not listen to this episode, because I can't promise that I'm not going to swear during this episode because some of the stuff in here genuinely is like disgusting beyond words.
Yeah. When I heard about this, when I first saw the headline, they're being sued, I was like, wait, whoa, what? And then reading about the why and everything, like you said, I'm not surprised in the sense of this is a thing happening at a gaming company in the games industry, because we have come to find in the recent years that behavior like this is very prevalent at many companies in the gaming industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of the mindset of assume that it happens at every company unless proven otherwise.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, not surprised that, oh man, it's another company. I think I was surprised that it was Blizzard, because I mean, I didn't know really anything about Blizzard's past history in regards to any of this stuff. So I was surprised, oh wow, it's Blizzard / Activision as well, that this is, coming from, that all this is coming to light about. And then the specifics about what we read in this lawsuit, like these real specific details and specific situations and instances are just shocking. And as you said, disgusting, to be quite honest. So yeah, once again, before we really start to get into this, content warning again, we will talking about as they said here in what they're being sued for, sexual harassment. There's topics of I believe rape. Yes, rape does get brought up. Suicide does get brought up. Um, all types of things like that. Again, just one more content warning before we really get into anything here. Okay, we're going to start talking about this now. All right, so here's a general overview of what the lawsuit covers. So the Activision Blizzard has approximately 9,500 employees, with about 20% of them being women. And I did the math, that comes out to about 1,900 women. So 1,900 of the employees there are women. The top leadership at Activision Blizzard is exclusively white and male. The president and CEO roles are currently and always have been held by white males. The top roles are almost never given to women. Those who receive these roles receive less pay than their male counterparts, and the same treatment is given to women in non-executive roles throughout the company. Blizzard has, quote, according to the lawsuit, fostered a pervasive frat boy workplace culture, end quote. Women at the company deal with constant sexual harassment, including unwanted sexual comments and advances, being groped during cube crawls and work events. High-ranking male executives face no punishment or repercussions for their actions. Unfortunately, one woman committed suicide during a work trip following harassment she received at a work event, and the harasser also bringing sexual items with him on this work trip. Complaints about this harassment, discrimination, and retaliation were made to HR at Blizzard and higher-ups, including Blizzard's president, J. Allen Brack, but nothing was done. Retaliation for complaints included being kept off projects, transferred to different departments, or being laid off. That's a very general top-level overview of the things going on at Blizzard, and what was discovered over the course of this 2-year investigation that the DFEH did into the company. Keiran, do you have any thoughts before we get into the first section here, specifically about like the first set of I don't want to say allegations, but you get what I mean, like the first topic that we're going to get into in this lawsuit?
A couple. One, as much as I understand that, like, you can't. So, I mean, you say here that most, if not all, of the upper level positions are held by white men. You can't just fire someone to make your company more diverse. Like, you can't just go to someone and say, like, okay, you don't have a job now because, you know, we need to make it look like we're making an effort, right? But at the same time, it's not acceptable that that position has always been held by, especially the CEO and president, has always been held by white men. It's not acceptable that in higher up roles, women are paid less than men. That it's against the law to pay somebody less for doing the same job. But again, I don't know if it's the exact same job. So that could be the argument for that, I suppose. But like, just, it's 2021. Hire diverse people. It doesn't, the only thing that matters is your ability to do the job. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation, your ethnicity, your religious belief. It doesn't matter any of that. If you have the ability to do the job and do the job well, it doesn't matter, right? Secondly, and this was the one that I'm probably away to spur during, there is something fucking wrong with your company if a woman commits suicide on a work trip because of the culture in your workplace. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I'm sorry for, like, I know this is, you know, we try and keep this PG and we try and keep it, like, you know, accessible to all people. But when I read that, it was, nothing is more disgusting to that, or about that, in my head, in this entire lawsuit. That a woman took her own life because of the work of the I'm so angry right now that I'm struggling to form this sentence. But it's, but before I go off on like a 10-minute tangent, it's like I said, disgusting beyond belief. Fix your damn company.
No, yeah, 100%. And like when it comes to the leadership positions and all, it is surprising. I mean, I don't know exactly how long Blizzard has been around. Exactly, like Blizzard itself, not Activision Blizzard, but Blizzard has been around. But the fact that there hasn't been a single person of color, a single woman in a leadership role at all, like that's shocking. That says a lot. That's, to be frank, quite sad. The same for the president and CEO roles. That it's always been and currently is held by a white guy. It's shocking, and it's like it's one of those things where yes, you want the best person to be in the position, and I'm not saying to just give a position to someone because you need to fill a quota or anything like that at all. What I'm saying is having someone who is not the standard, I guess you could say, of white guy or straight white guy, whatever, straight cis white guy, having someone who is not that standard in a leadership position will do wonders for your company. It just would. It would do wonders. And I am so certain that there have been and currently are many people at Blizzard who are more than capable and deserving of a leadership position or president/CEO position at the company, who would be able to bring a different perspective and necessary change to the company, whether it be, whether bringing a woman's perspective, a black person's perspective, a Hispanic person's, an Asian person's, and so on and so forth, what have you. That perspective is necessary in order to bring the change that companies really need in order to truly be inclusive and safe and open and welcoming to the people that work there, in order to really live up to what they say they are and want to be. You can't be that if everyone at the top level is, all looking the same. If everyone up there looks the same, they're all white guys. I'm assuming straight white guys, but they're all white guys who really encourage and enhance this frat boy culture. It's not a surprise then that everyone at your company, well, I don't want to say everyone, but that the women at your company are just treated so poorly. It's not a surprise. It's honestly a shame. So that needs to be fixed immediately. Like, it just needs to be.
30 years is how long Blizzard has been around.
Okay. That's 30 years too long.
Yep.
30 years too long with no change like that. All right. So the first section of the, once we get past like the introduction of the lawsuit, we then get into where they start talking about the sex discrimination that Blizzard, that the male employees at Blizzard kind of, like, I guess you could say, put on or enforce in the company. So, like we said before, women at the company receive lower pay and less lucrative job assignments than the men at the company, with women receiving significantly less in starting pay. And this like pay disparity continues all throughout their employment. So throughout the time that they're there, from the time they start to the time they leave, they are consistently making less than the men at the company, even if they're in the same position, doing the same exact work, or in a higher position, doing more work than someone. They're still making less money, which it just doesn't make any sense. Keiran, also, by the way, I have both Safari windows open here, so I can't see your face. Okay. So if you want to like jump in with a point, just feel free to jump on in.
Okay.
Women also get less stock and incentive pay opportunities at the company, and they have to work harder and longer just to receive the same promotions or other opportunities as the men at the company. And there's an example here that I wanted to pull from the lawsuit. Do you see the paragraph that I have marked?
I do, yes.
All right, so I'm going to read this paragraph here from the lawsuit. It says here, quote, "Women were steered into the lower levels of defendants in this case Blizzard, that's who they're referring to as defendant, defendant's hierarchy, and often had to work harder and longer to earn equal promotional and other opportunities as their male counterparts. As an example, a female employee working for Blizzard Entertainment was assigned to a lower level role, denied equal pay, and subsequently sought a promotion because she had been carrying out duties exceeding her job description. She was repeatedly told it was not her turn and others deserved a promotion ahead of her. Ultimately, the employee was promoted after 3 years, while her male counterpart was promoted within a year of his hire, despite having started several months after her. Her male counterpart was also assigned leadership responsibilities, which she was not afforded, responsibilities which furthered the male employee's ability to get promoted. And that's just like an example of what I mean here, where it's like how is it that the women at your company are like they're here for way longer, like they start at the same time as someone else, but they have to work way longer and way harder just to receive the same promotion that someone else got at all? How is it that, you know, the men at the company can get chances to do things that the women are not getting the chances to do, making it so that now the men have a better chance to get promoted because they're getting these opportunities that the other women at the company are not? It just doesn't make sense at all in any way, shape, or form. You know, saying, oh, it's not your turn, other people deserve a promotion ahead of you, when she when she definitely deserves a promotion. She's been, as they say here, she's been carrying out her duties exceeding her job description. She's doing more than what she's supposed to do, yet it's not her turn to get a promotion. And if she doesn't deserve it, other people deserve it instead of her. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Nope.
So then again, continuing on here, women also would be passed over for promotions in favor of men at the company who didn't have the same experience or qualifications, but were instead friends with the male leads of their unit. So I have another example here of that from the lawsuit here. It says here, quote, similarly, other female employees at Blizzard Entertainment were assigned to lower level roles, denied equal pay, and further delayed or passed over for promotions in favor of male counterparts who lacked the same experience or qualifications, but who were friends with the male head of the unit. A newly promoted male supervisor delegated his responsibilities to his now female subordinates in favor of playing Call of Duty. Other male supervisors would refuse to communicate with female employees, going to their male counterparts for information, end quote. I mean, what the heck? What the heck? This is simply just like straight up disappointing and just like disgusting. Although this isn't even the most disgusting thing that happened here at the company, but like you're giving a promotion to people just because, you know, you guys are buddy, and now the guy you give a promotion to, he's over here just sitting in his cubicle, you know, 360 no scoping people while he's telling his the female workers at the company, oh yeah, go do this, I'm gonna go play some games.
Yeah.
The other male supervisors, they don't want to talk to the women, you know, they're gonna talk to the other guys for information because apparently they see the women as beneath them. Like I mean, I've never been in a frat house, but this sounds like what you would expect to see or hear from a frat house. Like it's just terrible. It's disgusting. And a similar situation happened over at Activision Publishing as well, not just at Blizzard itself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read that example here because it's basically the same thing. It's very similar. You got anything to say before I move on to the next thing here?
Just that I'm gonna sound like a very broken record during this discussion, in that it doesn't matter, you know, your sexual orientation, your religious belief, whatever. If you can do the job, if you can exceed the job description, whatever. If you are the best person for the job, you are the person who should get the job. End of story.
And then down here, the next one we have here, how they discriminate against pregnant employees. And this is where things start to get really disgusting. So example here in the lawsuit, say, quote, Female employees were also not promoted because of defendants' discriminatory practices against pregnant female employees. A female employee working on one game team had assumed some of the responsibilities of a manager, but when she asked her male supervisor about being fairly paid for the work she was actually doing and promoted into that position, the manager commented that they could not risk promoting her as she might get pregnant and like being a mom too much. In general, female employees were further treated negatively due to their pregnancies. Supervisors ignored medical restrictions given to female employees and gave them negative evaluations while they were out on maternity leave. Other female employees reported that they were criticized for leaving to pick up their children from daycare, while their male counterparts were playing video games, and female employees were kicked out of lactation rooms so employees could use the room for meetings. I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I don't understand, and I am I'm going to I'm going to try my best to not totally break, uh, and just go off on a sailor mouthful tangent, because I would love to do that, but I'm sure I'm going to try not to do that. But it doesn't make sense. I'm going to get to this next example real quick, to the final one we have here, about how they discriminate against employees at the company. So they also, it goes further than that. It goes to even they discriminate against women of color, specifically African American women. One African American woman took 2 years to become a permanent employee at the company after she was hired, unlike the men that were hired after her. She was also micromanaged so much so that she would be getting calls from her supervisor when she was away from her desk just taking a walk, while the men at the company could be playing games at their desks without intervention at all. And then another African American woman in the IT department was also micromanaged. She one time asked for time off and was told to write a 1-page summary of how she would use that time, but no one else had to do this. And she also had her body language criticized and was scolded for asking for help. Of course, both women left the company after this, and many other women at the company have also left because of just the amount of discrimination that they face just for being a woman. Now, real quick, before I get like your overall thoughts on like the discrimination that the women at the company face, I want to say I am, of course, obviously not a woman, nor am I an African American woman, but there's a I forgot who said it, but it's not even necessarily a saying per se, but there's a thing I forgot some person in the African American community said, that I'm paraphrasing here, but basically the black woman, the African American woman, is the least respected person in America. The order goes white man, white woman, black man, black woman. And for years, obviously the African American community, deals with all types of discrimination and hate and racism on a daily basis, whether it be in gaming industry, outside, what have you, in the workplace, so on and so forth. And in the gaming space, African American women, they get all types of hate and racist remarks said to them, and discrimination and so on and so forth on a daily basis, just for being who they are and speaking out against racism when they see it, or discrimination, so on and so forth. Just basically they get treated like just real poorly just for being who they are. So reading this, it's just like, man, like, it's just, I don't want to say, there's a phrase I had in my head that's not like the right one to say, but basically like reading these two examples of just like how these two African American women at the company were treated, getting calls when you're away from your desk because you just went for a walk while other people, just playing games, being told that you have to write a 1-page summary of how you're going to spend your time off from work just because you want to take a day off. I have to write a 1-page summary. Like, it's when no one else has to do that. It's utterly disgusting. And it's it's just an example of something that many African American women, I'm sure women across the board, but specifically African American women, have, said about their experiences over the years, not just in many different workplaces, not just the gaming industry, but the workplace in general, about how they're just treated so much worse and so much more poorly than anyone else at the company that they're at. And it's honestly, it's like, it's angering, it's frustrating, it's annoying, seeing it, like hearing about it. And it's not that it's annoying hearing about, like, oh man, it's another one. It's annoying hearing about it because it's like, why is nothing being done about it? Why is nothing being changed? Why are they still having to deal with this? So getting these two examples here, it's, again, even more angering and frustrating. And I'm sure for many Black women out there, this let me not say that. I wouldn't be surprised if for many Black women out there, this, may not anger them or upset them all that much, because they're so used to hearing about this and reading this. It's like, yeah, told you so about this, is what it is. But I'm sure there are some who are like angry and upset and frustrated by this, by reading this. It's just like, change needs to happen. It just does. It just does. Simple as that. Do you have anything else to say about the discrimination section here?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of comments on Twitter saying like, "Oh, why is this still a thing? I thought we were moving past this." Blah blah blah, and like I've also seen a bunch of comments that I agree with far more, where I'm like, "Well, why is it happening in the first place?" Like I'm with you. I don't understand why, like, what is the point? Why does it matter if somebody is a Black woman or a gay man, or it doesn't matter? And as much as I know that me saying something here on a podcast that isn't listened to by the CEO of Blizzard or Xbox or wherever, like, it still needs to be said. Like, it doesn't matter. I am so sick of seeing these stories, not because I'm, I mean, like you said, not because I'm like, oh, another one, but it's just, why is it a thing? Sorry, that was the end of my point.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said why is a thing. I don't know. You said why is it
No.
a thing? Got you. Also, again, I can't see you right now, so I didn't realize you were
Yeah.
done. But no, yeah, it's
Actually, sorry, I will also add on that, like you are not a woman. I am not a person of color. I am also not a woman. So I'm probably the least experienced person to talk about this. Just pointing that out for people.
yeah. Again, like, no one. I guess this would be like the final. This could be like the final bow on this section. Like, no one should be discriminated against because of who they are, because of the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, religion. None of that. They shouldn't be discriminated against because of that.
Nope.
Everyone should be afforded the same opportunities that other people get. No one should be left out of an opportunity because they're a woman, or because they are an African American woman, or a person of color, what have you. That should be the case. They should all be afforded the chance to be the lead game designer, the lead creative director, the lead art designer, freaking CEO, COO, president, CFO, all those things. They should all be afforded that opportunity. It shouldn't be this exclusive boys club for, the trust fund white guys up there that, have been bros since day one at all. It shouldn't be like that. And not just Blizzard, but any company, period. It just shouldn't be. So now we're going to talk about the moving on to the sexual harassment section. And this is where things get really bad. So again, employees of the company have described working at Blizzard as being like working at a frat house. There are things called cube crawls that are common, which if I'm understanding correctly, I could have swore they like specified exactly what that is in here.
Yeah.
I thought they did, but essentially, what I'm understanding of it is, the guy is just coming over to every woman's desk and just, harassing them at their desk when, which is shouldn't be happening. But apparently that's common. And it's also common for the men to just proudly come to work hungover as well. And the men, while they're at work, they'll play their game. They'll just play games during work and just talk openly about different sexual encounters that they've had. They'll talk openly about women's bodies, and they'll just openly and proudly just make all types of different rape jokes. And the supervisors at the company know about this. They knew about this, and they actively encourage this behavior. I didn't put this example in here, but in the lawsuit, they have an example of this being encouraged by the supervisors, saying, quote, a male supervisor openly encouraging a male subordinate to buy a prostitute to cure his bad mood, end quote. Like, seriously, this is what we're talking about at work. This is what we're encouraging. We're encouraging this type of behavior in this environment. Anyway, moving on. So one specific leadership person at Blizzard was called out in this lawsuit. Alex Afrasiabi, I believe is how his name is pronounced. He's a former senior creative director of World of Warcraft. He's not the company anymore, but he used to be. And he was allowed to sexually harass employees, and he barely got any repercussions at all. At BlizzCon, he would hit on female employees and say that he wanted to marry them. He would try and kiss them. He would put his arms around them and just call them all sorts of derogatory names. And like, he would do this just in the open for anyone and everyone to see in front of male employees and supervisors. And it was these people who had to like physically intervene and take him off of the women that he was doing this to. And his behavior was like so notorious that his suite was nicknamed, as the lawsuit says here, the Crosby Suite, named after Bill Crosby. That's what they have written here. It's likely a typo. It's likely meant to be Cosby Suite, Bill Cosby. I'm just reading exactly what it says out the lawsuit. But Blizzard execs, they knew about his behavior, and they didn't really do anything of consequence at all. But what he got was essentially like a slap on the wrist. I'll read here actually I didn't put this in the doc here, but I'll just read it from the lawsuit. What happened was, quote, J. Allen Brack, president of Blizzard Entertainment, allegedly had multiple conversations with Afrasiabi about his drinking and that he had been, quote, too friendly towards female employees at company events, but gave Afrasiabi a slap on the wrist, i.e. verbal counseling, in response to these instances, end quote. Okay, you're just gonna verbal counseling, that's what we're gonna do? Like, no, he 100% should have been fired entirely for what he did. But this is where we get to the really terrible thing. One woman committed suicide on a company trip because of harassment that she had been receiving from her male supervisor. On this trip, he brought different sexual items with him. And prior to the trip, at a holiday party, there were men at the company that were passing around explicit pictures of this woman's body. Keiran, thoughts?
This genuinely pisses me off to no end. It is unacceptable that this woman took her own life because of things that were happening in the workplace to do with a male colleague harassing her. It is completely unacceptable that people on this work trip were passing around pictures of this woman's body. It is completely unacceptable that he brought sexual items on a fucking work trip.
Yeah.
It is. Again, before I go off on some like 10-minute rant on how how absolutely vile and revolting this is, I'm gonna end my comment there. But this is the one part of the lawsuit that is genuinely like made me consider, just until Blizzard like pick up their act and actually start to do stuff about this, just never play a Blizzard game again.
Yeah, I'll come back to that in a moment or a bit later, after we've gone through all this stuff. Please remind me if I don't mention that.
Yeah.
But I said it before. I believe I said it before, but I'll say it again. I don't understand how you can foster a culture like this and think it's okay in any way, shape, or form, and think that it's fine for your employees to talk openly about women the way that they do at the company, to harass them the way that they do at the company, and think that just saying to them, don't do that, that's not fine, and just think that that's going to be okay as a punishment of sorts. That's not a punishment at all. That's barely a slap on the wrist. That is literally just a talking to. That's a talking to. It's saying, you got caught this time. Hope you don't do it again. Like that's nothing. And it is utterly shameful that Blizzard has allowed this to go on for so long. Now, I mean, of course, we don't know exactly how long all this type of behavior has been going on, but this investigation lasted for 2 years. And Keiran, you said that we've known about stuff like this, not these specifics, but like we've known about behavior at Blizzard for some time. Yeah. I don't know how long that time is, but it would not surprise me if this has been going on for at least half of Blizzard's existence. It wouldn't surprise me. And if that's the case, how could anyone at the company in the higher ups say that it's okay? How could anyone look at their company and say, you just be real proud and be like, we got a good team here on our hands? Like it doesn't make sense. And I hate to say this, but like, would they just be okay if like one of their daughters or female family members, someone that they know, was at a company where they are dealing with this type of behavior? Would they just be like, that's fine? Or would I highly doubt it. I'm almost positive that then they'd be like, no, that's not okay. The company needs to burn to the ground. This person needs to be fired, so on and so forth. But under your watch at your own company, it's a-okay for you to do that. It's a-okay for your employees to do this to other people. It's fine to go up to a woman and make comments about her body to her face. It's okay to try and to physically grab a female employee's hand and try to take her to your hotel room. It's okay to do these things. It's okay to come to work just openly making jokes about rape. None of this is okay in any way, shape, or form. It's not. It's again, I'm trying not to go off on not a tangent, but just like let my mouth really fly. Because believe me, it easily would. But none of this is, it's shameful. And again, that's just, it's a broken record statement here, but like all of this is shameful and disgusting and terrible. And like everyone at that company that allows this to happen should be ashamed of themselves. Everyone at that company that allows this to happen should be fired. They should all be let go. They should, every single one of them that lets this happen. Everyone in the top brass, everyone that's even not a top brass, that's just like, a normal employee, but lets this happen or perpetuates it or engages in it, should be fired immediately. Just with full stop. I don't care if that causes, your games to be delayed. I don't care if this causes production issues. I don't care if you think that'll be too expensive to do. That's what needs to be done. They all need to be fired immediately. New people need to be brought in. New people need to be brought in that clearly will not do this. I understand that would be very hard to clear, in an interview. Yeah. Will you do this? No, I won't. Proceeds to do it 2 days later. I understand it's very hard to clear, but new people need to be brought in, and the new people that are brought in need to be ones that We need people in there in charge that will ensure that this type of culture is not allowed to grow and fester like a freaking disease at all in any way, shape, or form. This is why you need diverse people in charge. You can't just have a group of straight white guys in charge. You need women in charge. You need people of color in charge. You need all types of people in charge so that everyone can check one another and say, okay, is this area being taken care of? Is this area being taken care of? Is this perspective being taken care of? So on and so forth. Because if it's just a group, if it's just only white guys in charge, 9 times out of 10, no one's going to care about whether or not the African American employees are being treated fairly. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to care. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to care about whether or not the women at the company feel like they are being, well, not feel like, whether or not they are being harassed or abused. 9 times out of 10, they're just not going to care whether or not anyone in their company that's LGBTQ is being harassed or anything like that. They're not going to care because they are not from that community. They don't have that perspective, which is why you need these diverse people in charge. You need diversity in your company to make sure that, or at least to help ensure that situations like this and things like this don't happen. And it's utterly disgusting, everything that I've just read. And yeah, I'm going to leave it right there and then move on to this final section here in the lawsuit where they talk about how the company how people in the company will retaliate against those who spoke out and made complaints, and how Blizzard just failed to, prevent any of these problems from happening. So all these issues, everything that I just talked about, all the discrimination, all the harassment, all of it was known by the executives at the top. They knew about it. One employee complained to Blizzard's president, J. Allen Brack, in early 2019 that people were leaving the company because of the harassment and sexism that they were dealing with. And others complained to different people in HR, but really not much was done. Like basically nothing was done, essentially. HR was just really not trusted or liked by the employees at Blizzard. So these complaints, though, they weren't kept confidential, which is what they were supposed to be, but they weren't, which then led to retaliation against the employees who complained. What does this retaliation include? This included being involuntarily transferred to different departments. This involved being denied projects or other opportunities, and it also included being laid off. Some of the women were just straight up laid off because they complained about the way they were being treated at the company, which I keep saying I don't understand. I keep saying I don't understand because as a sane person, I don't understand how you could treat other people like this. I just don't understand how you could. But the thing is, at the same time, I do understand how I do understand how you can treat people like this. You treat people like this when you're just a terrible person. When you're a terrible person who doesn't care about others' well-being, who only cares about yourself and making sure that you're taken care of and that you're okay, and that maybe your friends that you're buddy with are okay, and you don't really give a lick of like attention or care to anyone else that is not the same as you, then this is how things like this happen. This is how we get Blizzard's frat house work culture. This is how we just end up with a place where people are forced out of lactation rooms because, we need to hold a meeting in here, get out. This is how you get women, African-American women, being told you need to give me a 1-page summary about what you're going to do during your break, during your day off. You're not my parent. Why do I need to give you a 1-page summary? I'm not 10 years old. You're not my parent. I shouldn't have to do that at all. Nothing here makes sense. This is how that situation, this is how you end up with a company with a culture that allows and fosters and allows a woman to straight up just commit suicide because of how she was treated. Like just passing pictures of her around at a party that pictures shouldn't have been out there at all to begin with, but they certainly should not have been passed around at the party at all. It just, again, I don't understand how people can be so terrible to others. I just don't. Maybe that's me being so good-hearted and all, but like, just I don't get how you can be so disgusting, so cruel, so evil, so just malicious to treat others like this, and to think it's okay, and to bring in other people that do the same thing as you and say, yeah, we're gonna do this today. It's okay if you all do this. We got you covered. Like, it's not, none of it's okay. It's not. It's not at all. So real quick before I pass back over to you, Keiran, just to get your final thoughts on things. Following this lawsuit coming out, that's everything I'm going to read from the lawsuit. That's basically covering everything from the lawsuit. Following after the lawsuit came out, a number of different things happened. Like I said, Activision put out a statement. Blizzard's president, J. Allen Brack, he sent an email to Blizzard employees following the lawsuit. If you follow Jason Schreier on Twitter, he has posted an image of the email that he got from someone. I've read the email. I forgot exactly what it said specifically, but he sent an email. Activision Blizzard executive Fran Townsend, she sends an email to Blizzard employees after the lawsuit as well. And no one is really happy with either of their emails. They see their emails as just being disingenuous and lies and not acceptable. Just like, I believe in Brack's email, he's saying, man, this isn't the culture that we want here. None of this is acceptable and stuff. But you knew about this. You knew about this. So what do you mean it's not acceptable? You knew about everything that happened. You're trying to cover yourself. You can't do that. And then Fran Townsend over here sending an email. Also clarification. She is a straight white woman who just joined the company a couple months ago, saying, oh, I've never had this experience in my time since I've been here at Activision Blizzard. And when I joined, I made sure that the company never did stuff like this to women, but I want to make sure that doesn't happen. No one cares about you, Fran. Shut up. No one cares. Your email is stupid. You sound stupid. Go away. Leave the room. Bungie has spoke out on Twitter, basically decrying what happened at Blizzard. They didn't name Blizzard by name, but decrying what happened there, basically calling on the industry to step it up. In World of Warcraft, players have been holding sit-in protests in the game, protesting what's going on. Actually, hold on, I'll come back to that one in a second. Activision Blizzard's many different social media accounts, for Call of Duty, for Diablo, Overwatch, so on and so forth, and the development teams all under Activision as well. All the social media accounts have been silent since this lawsuit came out. Blizzard was apparently going to reveal a new map this week, but that reveal got pulled as soon as that lawsuit came out. Wise decision. And a number of smaller game sites have spoken out, stating that they're not going to be covering any of Activision's games until clear change has been made at the company. As of right now, as of recording, big sites like GameSpot, IGN, Game Informer haven't made such statements. I've seen it from smaller sites. I think PlayStation Lifestyle, I saw it on Twitter, did it. The Gamer, if I'm right, said as much as well. It's mainly the small places that have been making these statements and all. So this is me coming back to what you said before, Keiran, about how you don't plan to play any Activision or Blizzard game until there's basically clear-cut change from the company. And it's something that I myself have been thinking about as well since this lawsuit came out. And I mean, honestly, I'll probably do that as well, because the only games I've ever played from them are Call of Duty and Overwatch. Really? That's it? And even Overwatch is what every now and then game if I'm in the mood for it. Call of Duty is one where I play it every year. The last one I didn't really care for. This year's probably wasn't going to be playing anyway. Like, honestly, I probably will not be playing any of their games at all either for a very long time. Like they need to fix things, and I fully believe that if a lot of people make their voices heard on this, a lot major change could happen. And I really think that if there is a major, I don't know, I guess you could say like if there's a major change in terms of the reception money wise to this new Call of Duty coming out this year, then maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll see that change happen, because this is coming at a time where the next Call of Duty should be getting revealed within the next month, and it would be coming out in October, November ish. This is like a really poor time for Activision in that sense, because Call of Duty is their moneymaker. And if Call of Duty gets hit hard, then maybe they'll actually, see that a change needs to be made of some sort. You can't really hit them from the Blizzard angle because Blizzard's moneymaker is WoW, I guess. People have been falling off of WoW recently, in recent months. And it's not like Blizzard puts out games all the time. Other than that, there's Overwatch in terms of, the loot boxes and stuff. But other than that, it's a bit harder to hit Activision from the Blizzard angle. If you want to hit them hard, you got to hit them from the Call of Duty angle.
Yeah.
I think that if a lot of people don't buy this year's Call of Duty, or if they at least see a significant drop in sales, because they already said they were expecting a drop in sales just because of what this year's game is supposed to be. If they see a bigger drop than what they expected because of this, maybe we'll see the change that needs to happen. Maybe we will. So
yeah,
I'm not going to be playing any of their games anytime soon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're going to be spending much time on it, but I'll bring it up now. The one game I played this week is Overwatch, which ain't going to be seeing that on my list anytime soon. But I have a few things just to kind of close out this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reiterate that there is something wrong with your company at a fundamental level if a woman commits suicide on her work trip because of the culture at your company. That is unbelievably messed up.
Yep.
2, and this might sound a little bad to start with, but let me explain. I am all for giving anyone a second chance, right? Excluding people who make rape jokes, people who foster this kind of environment, people who openly talk about, racism or discrimination or whatever about that, right? These people don't need fired, they need locked up. The people who are going around, making unwanted advances towards women, forcing themselves on these women. And sometimes I imagine this has happened before. I don't think it's mentioned here, but I wouldn't put it past them considering the environment, that people saying, oh, if you don't sleep with me, you'll lose your job. I would 100% imagine that stuff like that's happened. Like I say, people like that don't need fired, they need locked up. It's absolutely disgusting that I don't know how your company gets this bad. Like, what I'm taking away from this lawsuit is that 90% of the people who are, well, that might be a little bit harsh, but a lot of people at Blizzard lack one very, very, very important thing, which is general fucking decency. Just the ability to be a decent human being and not an absolute piece of garbage. That is what I'm taking away from this lawsuit. That is the main reason I am refusing to play any Blizzard games. I was really looking forward to Diablo 2 Resurrected. Not so much now. Like, it is unfathomably disgusting that this is the culture that you actively encourage at your company. As much as I'm not a business person, And as much as I'm, not in a position to be, a manager or a CEO or whatever, if I was the CEO of a company and I was walking through the office and I hear somebody like make a rape joke or a racist comment or anything, I would stop where I'm walking, look in the door, and fire that person on the spot. Because in any company whatsoever, there is absolutely no room for that sort of stuff. Like I said before, it's 2021. We are, 50 years past when that was appropriate? It doesn't make sense. End of rant.
Yeah, I'm like you said. They
Also,
need
hang on, no, sorry, I want to clarify something because I realized that something I just said could be taken like out of context. When I said that it's 50 years past being appropriate, it's never been appropriate, right? Like I wasn't meaning that in a sense that like, oh yeah, 50 years ago, this was totally fine. But to the attitude of society towards this sort of thing 50 years ago, however long ago, was far more tolerant of it than it is now, was my meaning behind that point. And not, it's completely fine to do this stuff because it's not.
Right. No, yeah, I got what you mean. But of course the clarification is always good. No, yeah, like you said, that the change needs to happen at fundamental level. It needs to happen. Changes like this, company-wide culture changes, start at the top and work their way down. Everyone at the top needs to go. They straight up need to go. It's as simple as that. And then working your way down, everyone that is poison to your company needs to go. If they just do. Like I said before, basically freaking just what's the word? There's a certain word I'm looking for. Basically, you need to glass, and to take a Halo term, you need to glass your company and rebuild it from the ground up. You just do it. And like I'm sure that there's a lot of people at Blizzard, a lot of male employees at Blizzard who don't fit this bill, who don't fit the criteria of being a terrible person, who are actually genuinely good people and all. Like we're so certain that there are a lot of people at the company who are good people, who aren't one of these people who's harassing and discriminating and so on and so forth, who doesn't feed into the frat boy culture. We're not trying to say that all the men at Blizzard are terrible men, but the men at Blizzard need to do better just across the board, whether or not you are one of those people who's been harassing and discriminating. If you're a man at Blizzard, you need to speak out against what you're seeing. Yeah, and again, I'm sure that there are some who have not seen it at all. I'm not going to say that everyone there has seen it. I'm sure there are some that haven't seen it at all. But the ones who have, if you haven't said anything, why haven't you said anything? Is it because you were afraid of being fired by your superior? Is it because you were thinking someone else will say something I don't need to? Was it because you were thinking, oh man, that sucks, and then you went up to the female employee after and said to her, man, I'm so sorry for you. I'm sorry that happened. But you didn't speak out against it in the moment, or just, go directly to someone else to speak out about it. If you're not doing, if you are not trying to actively correct and fix these issues while you're there in the moment, then you're not doing enough. If you're not trying to fix these issues and you're a man at Blizzard, you are, in effect, allowing this stuff to happen and perpetuating and fueling the frat boy culture that is going on there. And you need to fix that immediately. You just do. You need to flip the switch and actually, try and help. Actually do the right thing and making your company better. It's as simple as that. Everyone needs to do their part. And it starts with those in the company. It starts with everyone just being uprooted. All the terrible people being uprooted and tossed to the side, tossed away. Get rid of them. Bring in new people. Bring in better people. Put new put new appropriate people in leadership positions. You put them in positions of, put those people in leadership positions, and then we see the changes come from them. We see it work its way down. It's a shame that this is happening, especially because it's Activision Blizzard, one of, if not the biggest gaming company in the industry.
Yeah.
Which is what makes this all even worse, because it just puts a shining light on, not just on them, but on the gaming industry as a whole. And again, like we said before, like we're certain like this happens at other companies, we just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of assume everyone is terrible until proven otherwise. But yeah, I'm kind of talking in circles at this point. Just Blizzard needs to do better. Blizzard needs to fix everything going on there, get rid of everyone that's terrible, and just, yeah, this is a shame. It's a shame, and I'm upset.
Yeah, I have just a couple more things I want to say. Like, one, to your point of, like kind of innocent until proven guilty, or sorry, guilty until proven innocent, right? That, like, I mean, with, Bungie's statement, or Mike Morhaim's statement, or I mean, like even J. Allen Brag's statement, it's like, it's all words. Like, you can't prove it. You like,
Right.
until like an investigation is done into somewhere like Bungie, where I read their statement earlier. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was along the line.
Theirs.
But it was along the lines of like, we foster a diverse and inclusive environment. I'm like, okay, have people in and prove that. Don't just say it, because you just saying it, I'm like, okay, I don't believe you. I don't like, until you give me some evidence, then it's your word against whoever's. It's just talk. It's just words. It's just PR speak.
I do like in Bungie's statement how in one of their tweets, in their thread, they acknowledge, they're like, we are also not claiming to be perfect over here at Bungie.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm certain that, there are things going on over at Bungie that maybe some of the higher ups don't know about, or some things that people over there at Bungie just allow to happen. And, but they're not sitting here saying that they strive to be, this perfect company, and that they are a perfect company. They're saying like, we are doing our best to be a perfect company. We acknowledge and we say here that we probably are not perfect, and that there are probably issues going on here.
Yeah.
But we are doing our best. And I forgot Mike Morhaim's statement. He was the co-founder of Blizzard and former CEO.
Yeah.
He put that statement out today, the day that we're recording, on Saturday. And he basically, from my perspective, he took accountability for what happened while he was there, and basically was saying that, I'm not reading it verbatim, but basically was saying that, like, to any of the women that experienced things like that while I was there, I'm sorry that, I failed you. Yeah. The company as a whole and myself should have done more to protect you all, make sure you all were safe, make sure you all felt welcomed, and were able to just, come here and do what you came here to do, which, make great games and so on and so forth. And you all, some of you may not have been able to do that. Many of you may not be able to do that. And I am very sorry for that. And, he's, in my eyes, it's a statement where it's like, good on you for actually stepping up and saying, this is on me. If not entirely on me, like, this is partially on me. I should have done more.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you could do now. You're no longer at the company, but it's something. It's a little something. And it's way more than anything else that anyone from Blizzard or Activision has said since this lawsuit came out. I'm not trying to say that it's a perfect apology or a perfect statement. I'm just saying that I think it's a good statement given what he's saying. What he did was the right thing to do. What he did.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, not all of these statements are going to be just talk, right? I mean, some of them are like, I think that people in that sort of limelight, like CEOs of companies or celebrities, or like when they issue an apology, everyone's first like thought is like, oh, you're just saying that to get people off your back. But like some people will genuinely mean it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of ends that point. Two, I think an appropriate punishment for something like this would be obviously be fired. That's like step one, no question. But two, what I would like to see is an industry-wide blacklist of people's names get put on, so that if somebody is openly making rape jokes or sexually assaulting, sexually harassing, sexually or participating in sexual misconduct of any kind, right? Your name gets put on that blacklist. You are never hired by any industry or by any company in the video game industry again.
Yeah,
I think that
definitely.
I think that is a very appropriate punishment because there is no room in the games industry for that. Like it's I keep saying this, but it's 2021. Just do better.
No, yeah, I agree with that. Because what happens a lot, they'll leave a company and then they start their own, or they go to another company and then like it just kind of continues and goes from there.
Oh, well, I also have one last thing. I just kind of to your point. What I think needs to happen is they need to burn the house down so they can rebuild. That's not basically. Like, yeah, I mean, not entirely. Keep some of the good people, some of the people who are genuinely decent human. Because I mean, like we say, we are very positive. There are people at Blizzard who are not just total pieces of garbage. But,
right.
Like, keep some of the good people. Start new. That's the only way you're really going to fix this.
Basically, and I think that is a nice way to put a bow on this conversation.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're still not out the woods on this negative news for this week. Unfortunately, we still got two put into one. So I'm gonna pass this back over to you. We're gonna go from Blizzard to Ubisoft back in the news for not so good reasons.
Okay, my turn. This week there was kind of a deep dive article done by Kotaku. Well, two really, but like Tyler said, we've kind of combined it into one. On Skull and Bones, which for those of you who are old enough to remember is Ubisoft's think Black Flag without the story. It's just sailing around, and like it's kind of like Black Flag mixed with Sea Thieves, as far as I understand it. Was like the premise for it, at least.
Right.
So both of these articles were written by Ethan Ghosh.
I believe it's Gatch. I say Gatch. That's how I say his last name.
Oh, that's an A. I put an O there because I'm an idiot. Anywho, off to a great start. Yes, Ethan Gatch. Yes. So both of these articles that I'm going to reference are written by Ethan Gatch at Kotaku. And also, like Tyler, I've broken this down into, because this is quite lengthy, I've broken it down into kind of sections. So we'll start off by talking a little bit of the background of Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones started development in 2013 as a multiplayer expansion to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and it was going to be a post-launch update according to three sources knowledgeable with knowledge of the project's origins that Kotaku spoke to. Eventually, it became its own thing as an MMO-like spin-off with a working title, Black Flag Infinite, reusing Infinite for... No, it's Infinite, never mind. I'm getting off. Then it became a new IP called Skull and Bones.
Pause real quick. I forgot to tell you, everything I highlighted in yellow was stuff that was directly from the article. Okay. So the stuff in yellow is what Ethan wrote. I didn't highlight the things that are obviously in quotes because obviously that is a quote that's him quoting someone else.
Yeah.
The things that are in yellow are specifically what he said, like what he wrote.
Gotcha.
All right, I meant to tell you that before I forgot to.
That's all right.
So for the things highlighted in yellow, you could say Ethan wrote here, and then go on.
So Ethan wrote here, quote, Skull and Bones was originally supposed to launch in late 2018, then sometime in 2019, then sometime after March 2020, then sometime before March 2022, and now it's due to come out before March 2023, end quote. That's a heck of a long. That's a heck of a lot of delays.
It is, and who knows if this game comes out by then? We'll see.
Yeah. So the next section I have is kind of troubles with development.
Right.
So Ethan wrote here, quote, Kotaku interviewed more than 20 current and former Ubisoft developers, as well as those with knowledge of the game, its trouble development, and the studio leading production on it. Skull and Bones never had a clear creative vision behind it, suffered from too many managers vying for power, and was plagued by almost annual reboots and mini refreshes, end quote. The game has gone over its initial budget. 3 sources say the project has now cost more than $120 million and continues to grow. Again, Ethan wrote, quote, Ubisoft confirmed to Kotaku that Skull and Bones just passed alpha and provided the following brief statement, quote, the Skull and Bones team are proud of the work they've accomplished on the update since their on the project since their last update, with production just passing alpha, and are excited to share more details when the time is right. That being said, any unfounded speculation about the game or decisions being made only works to demoralize the team, who are working very hard to develop an ambitious new franchise that lives up to the expectations of our players, end quote. I mean, this sounds like something, the thing that comes into mind is either Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which is a game that has also seen quite a number of delays and development setbacks,
Right.
or something like Anthem, which I know it's referenced in the article. I can't remember if I put it in here or not. I don't think I did. But one developer said that it reminded them of the situation with Anthem where the game launched broken and bad.
Yeah, and like this, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. Like I mean, I read the article as well. I read this article and the other one, but I haven't read it since beginning of the week when both these went up.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, like this, it just sounds exactly like what we hear from these big games that have incredibly lengthy and troubled developments, whether it be Anthem or Mass Effect Andromeda or any of these other big games that have these trouble developments. It's because of too many people trying to work on them, too like no clear vision on what the game is going to be, constantly being restarted over and over and over again, going over budget, it's just so many issues. And it's kind of not a surprise that this is the case, that this is what happened with Skull and Bones at all.
Yeah. I was about to say something that's completely gone out of my head. I will move on to the next section I have, which is development changes, which is basically like the iterations of what this game was. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. It's a classic case of games being announced way too early, because it kind of happened with Cyberpunk. It's definitely happened with Vampire the Masquerade. It definitely happened with Anthem, where the product you show off is not the product you are going to receive, or even the product that game is going to be, 6 months after you show off, or 3 months after you show off, however long. Like, I think we've kind of spoken of this before, that like I would be completely fine with games being announced and released like 3 months later, if that's what it takes. So that like, okay, when I see the game, I'm like, okay, I know this is what I'm going to get for the most part. Obviously, there will probably still be some changes. But like, if I know this is for the most part what I'm going to get, I know that, I'm not going to have to like wait another 4 years for a game I'm super, super excited for. Just, I'm getting a little sick of games being announced like 4 or 5 years before they're released.
And I want to pull something from the article real quick, because I remembered it. We don't have it in the doc here. I'm going to read this thing here from Ethan. He says here, I think this is actually a bit just like funny, I guess you could say. Funny or shocking or surprising. Where is it? I thought I just had it. Okay, yeah, here we go. Talking about, again, this game and how it's been in development for so long and all. One part talks about how like the game was like had gone so over budget and stuff that like it basically became a financial write-off internally in order for the developers to have any type of chance of getting a payout because Ubisoft's developers get project-based bonuses based on how well their games do.
Yeah.
But there's a paragraph here. I'm going to read from what Ethan wrote here. He says, more generously, because real quick, prefacing this, talking about how some of the developers said other companies would have killed the game by now.
Yeah.
He says here, more generously, another former developer said that Electronic Arts or Take-Two, for example, probably wouldn't have attempted it in the first place. Either way, Ubisoft has bet big on the multiplayer pirate adventure and is determined to ship it one way or another. In part, that's because live service games have become an increasingly important and lucrative part of the Assassin's Creed publisher's portfolio. But 3 sources also told Kotaku that a deal with the Singapore government requires it. In addition to hiring a certain number of people at its Singapore studio in exchange for generous subsidies, they said Ubisoft Singapore must also launch original brand new IPs in the next few years. So because that I 100% believe if it was not for that deal with the Singapore government, this game would have been dead already.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like $120 million for a game that's been in development for what, 8 years now, that has almost nothing to show for it. Like,
and honestly, for a game that doesn't even look all that interesting or good, to be honest.
Yeah. Like it doesn't make sense business wise unless you can't get out of doing it. So moving on to development changes. Skull and Bones has changed a lot. It's been set in the Caribbean and later the Indian Ocean. One version was inspired by Sid Meier's Pirates and played out in a fantastical world called Hyperborea with branching multiplayer campaigns that lasted weeks. Another was based around an elaborative floating base called Libertalia, which was inspired by the mythical pirate colony of the same name. Most of these ideas never made it past the prototyping phase. The game shifted to one focused on multiplayer ship combat inspired by Rainbow Six Siege in 2017. This version was scrapped and shifted to one inspired by Rust and Ark Survival Evolved in 2019 to include resource management and rogue light elements. And focus shifted again in 2020 according to 4 current and former devs, and it's unclear what the final game will look like. Again, for a game that's been in development for 8 years and it has no idea and the developers have no idea what the game is, that's really bad. That's like you said, the deal with the Singaporean government is the only thing keeping this game alive.
Basically, it just is. If it wasn't for that deal, this game would have been, I'm certain Ubisoft would have killed this game.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we really hear often about Ubisoft canceling games, but I think they would have on this one because it was supposed to be a Black Flag expansion, but the Black Flag the hype for that died out when this game, shortly around the time this game got announced. This game got announced, it kind of was like, oh, okay, it might be a full game based around that. And then the following year, we saw it was just ship-to-ship combat, and everyone was like, well, that's not all that interesting, and no one cared about it anymore. So the hype for this game is gone. It has been gone, and it is on life support. And that Singapore government deal is the only reason it's still around.
Yeah, like it's. I don't want to say the game is going to be bad because obviously, like, I haven't played it, I haven't seen it in whatever state it's going to end up releasing in, so I don't know. But with the amount of development troubles, and I imagine Ubisoft like just wanting to get this game out now, I can't imagine it's going to be as good as they initially thought it was going to be.
I mean, I never thought it looked good. The cinematic announcement trailer seemed cool, promising. Then we got the gameplay, and I was like, this doesn't seem all that interesting at all. It just that's not that enticing or fun at all in any way, shape, or form. And again, like you said, it could end up being good. But with all these issues, we haven't even gotten into all the real issues. But with this constant shift in focus and like constantly changing, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. It's like there was no way the game wasn't going to end up like, well, there's very little way this game doesn't end up being a mess when it comes out. If it ends up, well, not if, when it comes out, it has to come out.
Yeah. One thing that I don't think I put in here, but I did see in the article, was that the plan was to recycle as much of Black Flag as
Yes.
possible for this game.
Yep. As many
Which,
of the assets as they could.
yeah, which I mean makes sense because it's a game heavily based on Black Flag. However,
Yep.
isn't the best thing to hear as a potential consumer of that game is it's going to be, recycled content. I don't know. Next category I just called what went wrong because it just lists a few of the problems with Skull and Bones so far. So the game has had multiple creative directors, with each one bringing a new direction and leadership changes. From the article, quote, the project is now on its third creative director, Elizabeth Pellin, who was formerly a vice president of editorial in Ubisoft's Paris office. Before her, it was Justin Farron, who some said had great ideas but lacked a clear vision for the game that aligned with HQ's ambitions. For some reason, I can't read. And before that, it was Sebastian Puel. I think
Sounds about right.
A longtime Assassin's Creed producer from the Montreal office who had little experience in designing a multiplayer game, they said. End quote. And another quote from a former developer saying, quote, it's a classic case of mismanagement for 8 years. Instead of adding layers of value, we kept running around in a loop, end quote. And then another quote from the article. Despite each new reboot, teams were tasked with building something based on blueprints that kept dramatically changing. In 2015, there were roughly 100 people working on Skull and Bones, according to 3 sources. By 2019, there were closer to 400. While some people Kotaku spoke with said crunch was common in the lead up to E3 showcases or milestone reviews in Paris, others said it wasn't an issue at Ubisoft Singapore like it is at many other places. Instead, they said exhaustion and burnout came from working on the same project for months and years without ever seeing it meaningfully progress. And that quote, and go into another quote from the article from, I believe, a former developer saying,
Yes.
quote, it's one of the only projects I've seen where as we were going, the team became more and more junior because of all the talent and all the experience would leave constantly. People would learn about the project, see how it works and everything around it, and then leave. It was constant, end quote. Which is really bad for development when all your especially senior developers leave. If you have a game, I'm not saying that if you have a game that's all junior developers, it's not going to be good or it's not going to be fun or whatever, but you lack the experience of people who have spent years in this industry and worked on most likely multiple games and can not only bring that experience to the table, but also bring that experience and help the junior employees who, this might be their first job or they might not have worked in the industry for that long. The experience that people bring long term is valuable in many ways, and not just to the end product of the game, but to shaping people's careers as well.
Right.
I will also say that how many people are working on 2042 Battlefield? Isn't that around 400?
I don't know the exact number, but I know that EA has a bunch of different studios helping on that game.
Yeah. For what this game is, 400 seems like a very excessive amount of people.
Yeah, I mean, again, like they said, like the final person here said, well, actually, no, not them. Where was it? It was, here you go, the quote here where they said, instead of adding layers of value, we kept running around in a loop. It was a classic case of mismanagement for 8 years. Like,
yeah,
you just keep throwing people at the problem to try and get a solution, but you're just gonna get more problems and all, because you're gonna have more voices on it and everything. And I forgot. I think it was in one of Jason Schreier's books. I believe it was. I think it was in his first book. Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. So I have that book. Basically, it's a book talking about the different development problems and struggles that different teams and all as they worked on certain games. And I think it was in that book. If not, it was in some article I read, where it was kind of said that whenever teams brought more people onto a game, it just made development take longer and made things harder because then you had to teach the new people what you were working on and get them accustomed to what you all are doing and stuff. Having the team grow, to 400 people for this game. Not to say that it's not necessary, maybe it is, but like it just seems excessive for this game, like you said. And again, here the teams we're constantly building something based on blueprints that we're already changing. Like it just seems like we're throwing things at a problem that's constantly changing and we're not getting a solution at all. And I mean, thankfully, crunch isn't a problem here, but like, it's understandable. At a point, people are like, I don't care. I'm tired of this. I want to do something different. And they're just like, they're out. It's like, nothing is changing. We're stuck in the same spot. You know, we're running on a treadmill, essentially, not getting anywhere. I'm tired of this and I want to go.
Yeah. I mean, just as this popped into my head, that might, you know, as an example of what I understand, it's like if you're baking a cake, for example, right, and you're baking the cake by yourself, and then someone comes along and says, "Oh, I want to help with that," you have to explain to them everything you've done so far, or say, "Okay, these are the next steps we need to take," and explain and take time out of, you know, it might take 10 minutes, might take an hour. Explain to them, you know, this is what needs done, this is what we're doing. But then you have like a new head chef come in and say, "Oh, actually, I don't want to bake that Victoria sponge. We're going to make a red velvet cake instead." So you have to restart the entire that's not a good way for that. That's not a good attitude towards game development. Like as much as I understand that, like if somebody new comes in to head up the project, they're not just going to go, "Yeah, I agree with everything the previous version of me decided to do," right? But at the same time, it's like there has to be a point where, like if I'm Ubisoft, I'm like, you know, as much as I know we need this game to come out, we need to hang on to people in this leadership role, because we can't afford, like, if this game like continues in the way it is, then it's just going to be stuck in this endless development loop that is going to bankrupt Ubisoft.
Yeah, this game is stuck between a rock and a hard place. And when we hear about the development situation over there, like the culture at Ubisoft Singapore, it kind of helps feed into the why. It kind of helps explain certain things.
And that is a beautiful segue into my next section, which is Ubisoft Singapore.
That's why I did it. That's why I did it.
So, where is it? Former developer saying, quote, "Ubisoft Singapore has always been kind of known internally to be one of the worst Ubisoft studios in terms of culture. People would visit from other studios and be like, what the fuck is going on here?" End quote. I've already swore like a million times using that during this episode, so screw it. And then Ethan writing in the article, quote, "In 2008, when Ubisoft first established its base of operations in Singapore, the local government made a deal that the studio would hire local developers in exchange for generous subsidies. This would encourage Ubisoft to train up local talent, with the goal of those developers taking the reins of the growing studios. Years later, some say that hasn't quite happened. Ubisoft soaked up the government subsidies while not paying some local junior developers enough money to move out of their parents' homes." End quote. Starting another quote from a former developer, quote, "They had 10 years to integrate. They just value the face of the company more than the actual employees," another former Ubisoft worker said. And then another quote from Ethan in the article, quote, "Based on interviews with over 20 current and former employees of Ubisoft Singapore, there was no shortage of issues ranging from sexual harassment and racial pay disparities to bullying by manager." End quote. Before I move on, we'll talk about this little section because this is quite lengthy. I mean, it's gonna start feeding into a lot of the stuff that I said about the Blizzard stuff, because some of the same stuff applies here. I will say the Blizzard stuff is much worse. I'm not trying to take away from that fact, but some of the same kind of goings on in that lawsuit at Blizzard are also happening here, which were brought to light. I think I wrote this down a little bit further on a Gamma Sutra article last year, and was kind of the thing that kind of brought all this stuff to light.
Right.
So what are your initial thoughts on this section so far?
For the Ubisoft Singapore stuff specifically?
Yes.
I mean, again, so far it's a thing where it's just like, man, you guys suck.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, that is honestly my overall thoughts on the entire article, because then I read this one as well.
Yeah.
But at this point, because I mean, what part are we at? Yeah, we're just at this point right here. And it's a thing where it's like, man, you guys, what is going on there? What is happening? Why are things the way they are? And then once we get into why things are the way they are, it's just like, man, why? Just why? I hate asking that question over and over and over again, because I sound like a broken record, like I have nothing else to say of like substance or whatever. But honestly, all I can ask is why? Why are you the way you are? Why do you do the things that you do? Why is this like just seen as acceptable by you, this person causing these problems? You will say the person's name in a second, but why? What?
Yeah.
Just why?
Yeah, no, like it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like it's like I have an entire section dedicated to the guy I'm away to mention because some of the stuff is just awful. But
Yeah.
again, like again, much the same as we were talking about during Blizzard. Like I don't understand. I don't get it. My brain, like, is the way my brain works just like, I don't know, not able to compute why people do this sort of stuff? Because I can't. I don't. My brain can't fathom not having like base human decency. Is kind of the thing I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So, and I apologize if I say his name wrong. No, not really. Huez Rakur, I think is how you say that.
Good enough. Probably better than what I
Sure.
would have done.
Yeah. Was the former managing director at the studio and was responsible for overseeing growth and how resources were deployed across various projects. Many of the studio's workplace issues happened under his leadership, with a developer saying, quote, the head was rotten, so the body was incapable of functioning properly, end quote. And then a quote from Ethan from the article, quote, in response to many of these allegations, Ubisoft released the following statement. It refused to answer any specific questions or concerns raised by Kotaku based on its reporting or make anyone available for an interview. And the quote from Ubisoft says, quote, we celebrate our international culture at Ubisoft and work to ensure our teams are deeply integrated into the local communities where we operate. We do not and will not tolerate abuse, harassment, or discrimination at any level. Ubisoft Singapore is proud of the studio culture that it has built over the last 13 years, with 35 nationalities and talent coming from a wide range of backgrounds. 40% of expert and senior expert roles are Singaporean or permanent residents. Compensation is determined by role, responsibility, market practices, and performance. End quote. One part in here is we do not and will not tolerate abuse, harassment, or discrimination at any level. Clearly, you do. Otherwise, this article wouldn't be a thing, or at least this part of the article wouldn't be a thing. Again, that is one that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna press exit out on that one because that is like it's been proven that that is the way your company operates. So you can take that comment and stick it where the sun don't shine. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I was gonna say is the part where it says Ubisoft Singapore is proud of the studio culture that is built over the last 13 years. It says with 35 nationalities and talent coming from a wide range of backgrounds. Like, sorry, 40% of expert and senior expert roles are Singaporean or permanent residents. That honestly, when I read that, the first thing that came into my head is that sounds like somebody who's like who makes a racist comment and then is like, oh no, I'm not racist. Some of my best friends are black. like the absolutely just stupid bullshit excuse. Right. Like that's the first thing that came into my head when I read that is like that's not like a justification or an excuse or whatever. That's just you trying to throw numbers at me for the sake of trying to be like, oh no, but look how we're incorporating ourselves into the culture. No, you're not. Like you're. It just I hate when companies are like, oh yeah, but look, we're doing this. I'm like, no, you're saying you're doing that to try and make me feel bad for you or feel sorry for you, when I really don't. Like, it's somewhat the same thing as when a company's like, oh yeah, we're donating this much money to like this charity. It's like, that's a nice thing you're doing. Like, I'm not denying that. I don't know if I believe that you are really caring about the issue at hand, or if you're just doing that to be like, oh, look how good we are. We're donating so much money to this charity. Like,
Yeah.
it's somewhat of the same thing, but yeah, I wasn't overly enthused by this quote from Ubisoft.
Mm-hmm.
This is where things start to get a little bit more over in the Blizzard realm of bad, where so I have here one example of sexual misconduct at Ubisoft Singapore that I took from the Kotaku article. So HR wasn't helpful and wouldn't do anything about sexual harassment complaints. From the article, Ethan says, quote, one former developer recalled a painful incident in 2018 in which she was walking back from an elevator into the office with a coworker who unexpectedly started rubbing her shoulders. A quote from that developer, I believe, said, quote, I actually shouted at him. I said, don't touch me, stop. And then he stopped, but he followed me all the way back to my desk and just continued to try and get my attention, she said. And I was using my phone and texting my boyfriend at the time to try and just get him to go away. But then he was like, who are you texting? Who's more important than me? Some coworker continue to harass same coworker continue to harass her. HR tried to excuse what happened and put the blame on her for what happened. From the article, saying, quote, blamed her body language or miscommunication due to cultural differences on the part of the offending manager, end quote. A formal review took months, during which time the manager still went to Gamescom for games promotion. The review resulted in a formal warning and compulsory cultural sensitivity training based on documents Kotaku saw. The victim appealed HR's decision, leading to the manager being moved to a separate building. Another quote from the article saying, quote, the entire process took roughly 9 months, and while the former developer said it resulted in a new formalized email reporting system for similar complaints and mandatory sexual harassment training, it still felt like an uphill battle to change the bro culture on the studio floor, end quote. And then another quote from I
believe it's from that same person, from that developer that said that it results in the formalized email thing.
Yeah. So from that same developer saying, quote, the training couldn't change a culture that's so ingrained with misogyny that every time someone comes out with their training, they just make fun of it and say things like, oh no, you complained my hair, you complimented my hair, that's sexual harassment, end quote. And again, like me talking now, this is getting into like is in the like absolutely disgusting realm. Like this stuff shouldn't happen. It's just common sense that you don't, go up to somebody, like, I don't approach strangers in the street and start rubbing their shoulders or walking up to them at a bar and saying, hey, kiss me. That's not decent behavior from anyone, let alone somebody in a managerial position at a company or just any position in a company, to be fair.
Right.
The part that really pisses me off about this is HR tried to excuse what happened and put the blame on her for what happened and blamed her body language or miscommunication due to cultural differences on the part of the offending manager.
Yep, that is what's just like, that's terrible. That's especially egregious in this whole situation. Like she came to you looking for help and you're victim blaming her. I think this is what people will call gaslighting in a sense, where you're just saying, oh no, it's your fault. Your body language might have made him think that it was okay, that, when she clearly told him, no, I don't want you to, please stop, leave me alone. And he kept on doing it. Like, you all can go somewhere with that. Just get what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying what I actually want to say, but like, they can go somewhere with that. That's not okay.
Yeah. So now we have the part that I just titled the guy's name, Huez Brukur, because I wanted to especially highlight some of the stuff that he was involved in, because some of that stuff is just absolutely disgusting. So when former head of Ubisoft Singapore, Huez Brukur, I put his name the wrong way around there for some reason, but Huez Brukur took over from the former head of Ubisoft Singapore. One developer described it as quote, like replacing a velvet glove with an executioner, end quote. Reports came to light of sexual misconduct, toxic management strategies, and treating people more like resources than human beings. Developers working on Skull and Bones apparently got the worst of it, but a lot of the pressure and anxiety of working on the game came from Huez himself. Anyone who voiced doubt or concerns about the project were iced out of meetings and their career prospects killed. One former developer saying, quote, when you feel like you're going to get fired because you're saying the truth on a project, that's by definition a toxic environment, end quote. 6 people that Kotaku spoke to said that repercussions could be anything from being passed over from a pay raise to being removed from the project entirely. This came alongside reports of Recur encouraging managers to make examples of their staff and make people, quote, fall in line and promote productivity. Employee evaluations were largely negative under Huez. Rather than a mix of things developers were doing well and things to improve on, team leads were only allowed to give out a certain number of positive reviews, with the large majority focused on weakness and failures. This can lead to developers feeling stuck at a studio as they think they won't be successful anywhere else. One current developer saying, quote, Huez was open in saying that everyone was replaceable and you should all be thankful to be here, end quote. And then, like I said earlier, on August 14th, 2020, a Gamma Sutra article was posted which brought to light just how toxic it was to work in some parts of Ubisoft. It included charges directly aimed at Recur. The outcome of this is not what many had hoped for, Recur's termination from Ubisoft, but with him immediately going on leave before being relocated back to Ubisoft HQ in France to become Production Intelligence Director. When I was saying that there should be an industry-wide blacklist, this man should be the first on the list.
Yep. 100%. Like just like I said before, the Blizzard stuff, what starts at the top trickles on down to the bottom. What the top allows, the bottom it just goes on down to the bottom, and then they let it feed and foster, so on and so forth. And just taking people off projects for speaking out on things, being laid off, so on and so forth. It's exactly what happened at Blizzard. Just, I guess smaller scale because it's not as many people or whatever.
Yeah.
But just like, and I mean, in this case, it's not necessarily about, it wasn't just about like harassment. It's like, hey, saying the project sucks and then getting kicked off or fired because you said the project sucks right now. Yeah. Like, again, not saying that one is better than the other. They're both equally bad. Well, actually, no, it's a lie. Everything that happened at Blizzard is way worse. But yeah, this guy, it's just terrible. And again, like I said before, it explains why things with Skull and Bones have been so bad, or at least it partially explains it. When you got this guy in charge and he's, fostering this type of culture, it explains why, people over there might be so stressed on the game and just like, so I guess you could say scatterbrained in terms of like their thoughts on what they want the game to be and what features and so on and so forth are going to be in it. It's like this studio was by definition a toxic studio. Kind of, it just is by all definitions. So like, yeah, it's good that he's not there anymore. And in the article, they say that someone else is taking his place. They were like, the people at Singapore were worried that like some new white guy was going to come in and be the lead of the studio, which ended up happening. But they did say that things under this guy have actually been good. They've been better than they were with Record. But they're still going to be keeping an eye like to see how things go with this new person in charge. I forgot his name. I don't have that part in front of me right now. So I mean, it seems like things seem like possibly potentially getting better for Ubisoft Singapore, but they never should have been in this place in the first place. They never should have been in this position where, again, it's a toxic work environment. It's a terrible workplace culture, terrible conditions, so on and so forth. They never should have been in this position. And again, just anyone and everyone who in the gaming industry who embraces this type of culture, allows it to thrive in their company and encourages it, needs to just be kicked out, blacklisted, wiped out, erased, so on and so forth. Wow, those are loud motorcycles and I hate them. But yeah, they all just need to go. They just need to
Yep.
go and we just need to build up from there.
Yeah, and one final quote I took from the article just to kind of end on from one former developer saying, quote, "They love to say that when you first join the studio, you either sink or swim." And it's like, that's ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with sink or swim. It's got nothing to do with your ability to do the job. It's more about your ability to be able to deal with these people, end quote, which is the opposite of what a workplace should be. You should be able to get along with your colleagues. You should be able to like go up to your boss and say, "I'm having trouble with this. Could you help me?" And not be ridiculed or potentially fired or anything for that. Like I don't understand the culture of these workplaces. I genuinely don't. Again, I don't know if it's just because I like to think I have some general human decency, but I don't understand it.
I don't either.
Okay, and moving on to our final story, which I'm going to get through very briefly because I realized it's been going on for quite some time. EA Play Live happened on July 22nd, which was 2 days ago now, in which they showed off a few things. I didn't watch the event. I've watched a few of the trailers from this.
I can tell you this much: you didn't miss much.
Yeah,
you honestly didn't miss much.
It's the general consensus I've seen from this is like the only real, or the like only like one or two real announcements of consequence or import, where the Dead Space remake has been announced and is coming to PC and next gen consoles, so Series X and S and PS5. I did, even though I'm probably not going to play it, did watch the trailer for it. It looked cool. It showed off some in-engine gameplay.
Well, not gameplay, but just footage.
Yeah, footage. That's what I meant to say. Looks cool. I'm not going to play
it. See, I don't know if I'm going to. I didn't play the first one when it came out, but I might give the remake a shot. Again, my gaming palette has changed over the years. Still going through Resident Evil 7. I need to finish that up. But I might give this a shot. Like honestly, I never played Dead Space, but I liked it from a distance. I liked the vibe, I liked the tone, I liked the gameplay mechanics and everything. So watching this trailer, I was like, I mean, everyone knew Dead Space was going to be here. Like everyone knew it was good. This was going to be the closer for the show. But watching the trailer, I was like, yo, this made me nostalgic for Dead Space in a way that I never would have thought I would be. And I was like, this is doing everything right, trailer wise. And then IGN like had different articles up talking about like because they talked with the devs before the reveal and everything, and talked about how there's not going to be any microtransactions in the game. They're going to be trying to implement different gameplay elements from some of the later games into this one and some story elements into this one. That way they could be like there could be a more clean connection between like this Dead Space and then Dead Space 2. And just gameplay enhancements that will make this one play a bit better and feel a bit better, but they're still trying to stay really faithful to the original in terms of, again, the tone and the HUD, and just everything, the audio and stuff, because the audio was another thing about the original Dead Space that people really liked, about how you hear the necromorphs and Vince and everything, and you're just like, oh, where are they? Where are they? Like, I hear it coming from my right hand side. Let me see what's over there and stuff. Like, this remake has me super excited. I might give it a go.
Yeah. I'm like 99% not going to play it. There's one part in the back of my head that's like, you could try it maybe. It's probably also worth noting, just for people who might not be super familiar with what this is. It's a from the ground up remake of the original Dead Space.
Yep. No date on it though, so
no,
we gotta wait on that a bit.
Next up, Battlefield 2042's Portal mode was revealed, and it matches to. I'm just reading a headline from the IGN article written by Adam Bankhurst. Battlefield 2042. Battlefield's 20. Nope.
Battlefield 2042's.
Battlefield 2042's Portal mode mashes together every Battlefield into one. Maybe I need to go back to like primary school and learn how to read again. So Battlefield Portal is a new mode in Battlefield 2042 that lets players create complex custom game modes using assets from Battlefield 2042, Battlefield 1942, Battlefield Bad Company 2, and Battlefield 3. There will be 6 classic maps, 40 plus weapons, and 40 plus vehicles from three theaters of war, 7 different armies from classic titles, plus Battlefield 2042 specialists. This is intriguing, actually. I don't really use like level editor modes in games. That's not really something that interests me. But
Right.
I mean, I'll give it a shot at least.
Yeah, I'm not one to do level editor modes either, but watching this trailer, I was like, okay, this is cool. This is so cool. Like you can just get really fun and wacky with it, which I think is awesome. Like they when they were doing the talk during the event, like there was one mode that someone had made called Robot Man, which is basically one person's in a tank and then everyone else is playing as like the little drones from the little robot drones from Battlefield 3 trying to take out the tank. And it's just like it's just goofy fun. It looks like it'll be really cool. And they said that, you know, this will be their day one when the game comes out, and that there'll be different like there'll be dev creator modes as well for people to work with and play with and stuff. But like there'll also be having like a curated list or rotation of modes every so I don't know how often they said, but from the community and all. I think it's really cool, and it's a really awesome way to like pay homage to some of the more acclaimed and well-liked games in the Battlefield franchise. And again, it also made me just really want to play this game. Like I'm watching the trailer, I'm like, of course, none of it was actual gameplay. It was all in-engine cinematic footage, but I was just like, you guys are doing the right thing this year to bring Battlefield back in a way that just hasn't been done before, and you getting me on board.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely getting this game now. Like I know, like in our initial thoughts, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but after seeing like the stuff that has come out since then, I'm for it. I'm getting this game. Definitely getting it over Call of Duty.
For sure.
Codemasters reveals Grid Legends. The studio behind F1, Dirt, and Project Cars has revealed Grid Legends, a new racing game that is set to arrive in 2022. The game will feature a live action story that was filmed with the same tech used by The Mandalorian, whatever that means. So,
yeah, cool. They mean like the tech that allows them to like. If you've seen some behind the scenes stuff, like basically when they film The Mandalorian, they're not always on location. Like they'll be like on a sound stage, but there'll be like this giant screen around the stage that on that screen has the environment that they're in. So like they're able to still like see the stuff that they're like, see the world that they're in and actually act with it and stuff, instead of like being in front of a green screen where they don't see any of it. So that's what the Mandalorian has used, and that's what they're using for this. It's really cool stuff.
Cool. It's probably another racing game I'm not going to play.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to play this either, but I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Apex Legends Emergence release date announced alongside the newest Legends Seer. I'm not going to read this entire thing because it's quite long. But Seer's gameplay reveal will take place on Monday, July 26th. Ranked arenas will also be joining Apex Legends with Emergence, and new maps are in the works for arenas. And then, if you want, I'll just say if you want to see a description of what Seer is or who Seer is, then you can head over to this IGN article, which is basically just everything revealed at EA Play Live.
Yeah, like the Emergence event, Emergence season, whatever you want to call it. It's starting on August 3rd, so next Tuesday. And Seer, they said that he's basically a tracker, like Bloodhound. I don't play Apex, so the kind of like as I was watching it and they're talking about it, I'm like, okay, cool. This means not too much to me, but I'm sure it means a whole lot more to people that play the game. Yeah. But he is a tracker. He looks really cool. I like his style. I know a lot of people are saying they're going to main him just off his looks alone.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that because I mean I talked about this a bit last week, but I've gotten very, very into Apex Legends recently. They released a new map this week called Olympus, which is really cool.
Okay.
So I'm definitely gonna go back and watch that.
Right.
EA Original Lost and Random will be released in September 2021. I have no idea what this game is. I'm sure I've seen stuff for it before, but I can't remember it. So I'm definitely not the right person to talk about this, but it will be released in September.
Yeah, September 10th for PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC.
Oh, I did not look at the date.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the new story trailer and all. The trailer had some gameplay in it as well. Honestly, I don't remember if we saw gameplay for this game last year when it was first announced, but when I saw it, I was like, huh, I don't know how in I am on the gameplay. Granted, I was also like kind of doing stuff at work as well, so I wasn't able to fully pay attention and stuff. But it seems interesting. I like the style of it a lot, though. I like the art style of it a whole lot. The gameplay, though, I wasn't too fond of, but I got a little more into it. But that's coming, and I think it's cool that EA has the EA originals and stuff.
Yeah, and the final thing that this article has from EA Play Live is the Nugget City Season 2 is a fight at the movies, in quotation. The Dodgeball game Nugget City second season will be themed around movies. This new season will bring with it a new map, new gear, and a new soda ball weapon. Nugget City's fight at the movie season will arrive on July 27th. So,
A couple days
what?
after this goes live.
Yeah.
Actually, the day after, because
Yeah,
this goes
I
live
was
on
going
the
to say day
26th.
after.
Yep. I'm excited for this. It looks cool. The map, the map, like it's all movie themed. This whole season is movie themed. So the new map, it's one map we're getting, but it changes. So I think every match you play on the map, it'll be themed differently. So in the trailer, we see like at one point, like the map is Egyptian themed, but then another time it's themed like it's a city at nighttime, and then there's another one where it's like themed after something else. It's kind of like multiple maps in one. It looks cool. You can bet I'm definitely gonna play this for sure, because I like Slanghouse City a lot. It's a lot of fun. Although that game has gotten very sweaty. The game got so sweaty, like in a matter of a month after it came out. People were going so hard in that game. Oh my gosh. Still a lot of fun.
I still haven't played any games after the one that I played. I need to get back into that because I do enjoy that game.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's cool.
Okay, that will conclude the news stories we have for this week. Very quickly, okay, we've been going for quite a while. I still want you to talk about Nier because I want to hear that. However, similarly to what we did last week with Keiran's thoughts, I'm going to give you a time limit for your 2-minute thoughts on Nier.
Oh, okay. 2-minute thoughts on Nier.
I have a timer up.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready for me to go.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. So Nier Automata, I have finished the first ending. I finished Route A. I am on Route B. And when I started Route B, I got the ending for Route G. So, yeah, it's a game with multiple different like you do the first playthrough, but then there's like a bunch of other endings you can get as well. Because you start the main game, Route A, you play as 2B, the main girl character. Route B, you play as 9S, who's been hanging out with her in the first playthrough. There's another character you could play as. I haven't gotten to her story yet. But so I started the second story with 9S. And I didn't even realize this, but I was like, oh, let me go over this way. And I went down this path and it was like credits. I was like, wait, hold on, what? It was like, yep, Route G. I said, all right, that was a G ending. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So now let's continue on. So I am for Route A, for the main first storyline, the first plate that you do. I enjoyed it. The game was fun. It's definitely a story where I'm like, man, some of this stuff is just crazy anime stuff where I'm just along for the ride. But I liked the way it ended. And like some characters like definitely show like some of the characters evolve as you go through the story. It's like, oh man, I like the way like you're feeling like this now when at the beginning of the game you wouldn't have been like this at all. Now 9S's story, it's giving you a different perspective on the exact same events that you went through with 2B. Because 2B did, like, you and her were together for the entirety of her story of Route A, but he might have seen things a different way than she did. So, for example, there was a boss fight that you did in an amusement park. And during the boss fight, he's like, all right, he's like, when you're playing as 2B, he's like, all right, you do this, I'll do the hacking. And you do the boss fight normal, easy peasy. When you're doing it as 9S, you do the hacking and you see what that is like and all. And it gives you a different perspective and you see some weird cutscenes and all. It's really cool. I'm liking it right
30
now.
seconds.
I'll probably finish his story much quicker than I did 2B's. I can't say I'll finish the game anytime soon, but I think I'm going to focus on this game a whole lot more now, since my Ratchet and Clank review, the goal is to have the video review done and up for this coming Friday. That is the plan. I'm going to be working on the written review this weekend, and literally after we finish recording this, I'm going to edit this, and then while that's exporting and stuff, do my write it up and stuff, and hopefully get the video out this coming Friday. That's the plan, and then I could focus on Nier. Actually, no, last stop. I got that game yesterday. I want to play that. Interesting times. Interesting times.
I honestly don't know what I'm playing next. I need to pick up Death's Door. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yes, you had it's Game Pass, right? Like, play it. Dude.
Nope, it's not Game Pass.
I thought it was. Well, get it if you can. Get it.
That is going to conclude this week's episode of the Play to Win podcast. Again, we've gone for a little bit longer than usual, so apologies, but it was a good conversation. It was worth it. So you got some good listening.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Play to Win Game. We'll get updates on the show. We share, updates on the show. My brain is blanking right now. I'm anyway. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Follow us for all things Play to Win. Subscribe to us on YouTube and take the notification bell so you know when new videos go live, Friday videos, podcast episodes, any other random videos we might post in the meantime. And remember to share the show with anyone who you think would enjoy it. Tyler, where can people follow you?
Follow me on Twitter at Tyler Miller 2496. Follow me over there. I retweet a bunch of stuff, tweet about funny things, tweet about things in the gaming industry, so on and so forth. So thank you. Give me a follow, chat with me.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Badlynet, BADLYNET, all one word. That's it. Thank you all for watching. We will see you soon for more content.
Have a good one, guys.